Om Shanti, good afternoon and welcome back. So lovely to be with you now in the afternoon for some family time, journeying together. This is our fourth session of the Churning and Writing Retreat. We already had two spiritual resources with us, Judy Rogers 2 days ago and Mike George was with us this morning. And Sudastidi, yes, she was also in the first session. So we've already had some very rich duels from all of them. What I've appreciated so far is seeing how the different approaches to churning. And I personally appreciate always a lot going back to simplicity and clarity. And I love being a student. So meeting together like this makes me very happy. Like, yeah, just being a student and really studying together like this. Hello, Caroline. Nice to see you again. What has stood out for you?
Hello, everyone. Really lovely to be together again. What I appreciated, one of the things I appreciate is that the approach Judy introduced to us was very much the learning style, which is close to my learning style. Like from education, we know that everyone has different entries, how to receive knowledge, how to inculcate knowledge, and how to deepen understanding. Some are more maybe with pictures, with experiences. Some are more connecting to words, or some are more connecting to practical things. We know these different learning styles. And I felt very connected to the style of the approach of Judy. And the one from Mike, I also appreciated a lot, but I also was aware that I have to make more effort to use this one because it's not my primary style. I have to train my intellect and my approach more, which is great. So I also like very much the variety of the approaches we have been received so far.
And I think these sessions now, one aim of the Churning and Writing Retreat was, of course, to hear from those very experienced people, but also we wanted to explore together, to play together, and somehow explore the way of communicating with each other and the way of sharing Baba's Gyan with each other. And I think that's also so interesting, the culture of our communication with each other, the culture of being together, and how we may experiment with this in some new ways. So maybe, Caroline, you can take over now and take us into the next phase.
Well, yeah, you just used the word culture, Stefania. Now you're gone, but it's okay. And that's actually what Stefania and I have in mind, or what's like one of the things which really drive ourselves, our interest with these sessions is to create a culture of, and Mike George used the word culture of understanding when he was talking about questioning things, thinking new about things, not taking everything for granted, and so on. A culture of understanding. And I was thinking, wow, what is that? How does that look like? A culture of understanding. And we used before in the Churning and Writing Retreat we did last year, we used a lot the term culture of being and learning together and working together, that we would love to strengthen our ability to co-create together, to serve together in a way which is like in a co-creative mode. And that requires a certain state of mind, a certain consciousness, where there is a lot of openness, so opposite of fixed ideas how things have to be, a lot of openness and flexibility, and of course so that Baba's touchings can come through, and that we can connect with each other. So in the dialogue rooms, which we will have soon, we wish that this in itself is an experimentation. So we would like to invite you to use these 34 minutes, which we will have in the small groups, to experiment with a very conscious way of listening, of connecting with the field you create in this little group, connecting with the flow of the conversation, so that what I want to say is not totally disconnected to what has been said already, for example. And very often I see in group conversations, someone is sharing something really meaningful from his or her heart, and that's meaningful to her. And then someone else has their own thing in their mind, and they just say their idea. But there wasn't the sensitivity of giving a moment of silence, a moment of, allowing this, what has been said or just now, allowing that to expand a little bit in a moment of silence. And this way of being sensitive to a group conversation is something which I think every one of us can practice more. And this is a space for it, where we don't have like time pressure or so, where we really can open our heart and can connect with the other. Do I really understand what this person is trying to say? And can I not only connect to the words, but also to the feeling, to the vibration? And the dialogue method, which I like very much, is Bohm's dialogue. David Bohm was a physicist. He knew a lot about energy and fields from his quantum physics background. But he also was inspired by an anthropologist who observed indigenous peoples who were coming together regularly, sitting in a circle and share every day, every now and then. And he observed them, and he tried to understand what mechanism, what rules they use to communicate, because everything felt very harmonious, or very like powerful. And then the thing which he didn't get at all was when the dialogue was over. Everyone was clear when it was over, only he didn't understand. And what they were actually doing were, they were listening with a very open mind and heart, and deeply connecting to the circle. And so everyone was placing in the middle, you can say, their perspective of reality, and the other, and the other. And after some time, everyone got to see the perspectives from everyone else. And it's like a mosaic picture, where you add more and more pieces, and then you have a bigger picture. And that allowed them to understand each other, but to also have a very broad collective perspective on something. And that was the basis of then working together, and it created mutual understanding. And I think this is also something which is very valuable for us as Brahmins. When we live together, we serve together, we, share learning processes together. So I will just share in brief now some guidelines, and I also will put them in the chat, just for an orientation, simple guidelines for the dialogue. So one thing is to adopt the attitude of a learner, which means a bit what Mike George said: don't believe you know what the other says, or what he or she means with her words. Be open and questioning, what does he really mean? So attitude of a learner. Then speaking from the heart, really not from the head, but from what is really important to you, share that. And then openness, being open also to the flow, trusting the flow of the conversation. And together with that, genuine listening. Often, we all know this, someone is saying something and we talk in our head already, either categorizing what has been said, categorizing the person, and so on. But try to have a pure mind and just receive genuinely. And then slow down and be mindful is a very important thing. To have a slow conversation. Leave pauses. That helps a lot. And lastly, observing my own thinking. When I see myself reacting on what someone said, that's a very valuable observation. Let me write that down. Let me understand my mind. Yeah. Otherwise, we might react or interpret without being aware of it. So I will put it in a chat, but don't try to read it all or understand it all. It's just an orientation, and you can copy it if you want to photograph it. But maybe it's better to keep it simple and just whatever you can remember from what I've shared, that will be the right thing to keep in mind. We will have now a little reflective exercise to together in the big group create an experience. And then from there, we will go into the breakout groups. And Stefania will share the reflective exercise. Are there any questions? Was that clear? Okay. Then I hand over to you, Stefania.
Thank you, Caroline. While I was listening to you, I was just feeling this sense of, I think, inner security and confidence that's needed for such conversations. Because otherwise we quickly go into the mode of talking a lot and using lots of words and maybe feeling insecure with silent moments. So it's a good time to explore that as well. So I would now like to invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pen or something to write with. And I'm going to screen share the exercise that we will do now. And we are going to use the method that Judy Rogers explained, or at least part of that, before we go into the groups. So I'm just going to read this text, which is actually it's a Murli extract, quite also connected with what we are exploring. And maybe you can just close your eyes while you listen and see what stands out for you and what questions come to your mind. So the text is like this. And maybe before I start reading, if you need language, if you want to be in language groups, while in the small groups, please rename yourself now, because the tag team is now putting together the groups, and put the first two letters of your language before your name. So if translators could make this very clear for those they are translating for, to rename themselves now. But maybe you can just close your eyes now, and I'm just going to read this little extract. And you can see what touches you from it. Practice being introspective so that you can understand the Alokkic languages and become full of success. The more you children stabilize yourselves in introspection and sweet silence, the more easily you will come to understand the language of the eyes, the language of feelings, and the language of thoughts. These three types of language are the language of your spiritual yogi life. These alokkic languages are very powerful. According to the time, it is only through these three languages that you will be able to attain success. Therefore now, develop the practice of using these spiritual languages. And now just see what stood out for you and write down one question that comes to your mind about this passage. Just see what one question comes to mind as you listened to or read this extract. And once you have the question, as Judy had explained yesterday, become very silent and allow the insights and clarifications about the question to come into your mind. So Judy was mentioning not to think, just becoming totally silent, repeating the question in the mind, staying silent for a while, and listening. And once the insights have come, write a few sentences of your own reflections on the question. Once the insights have come, write a few sentences of your own reflections on the question. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be a few sentences, few words, few thoughts that you just jot down. And as Mike was sharing this morning, not rejecting anything that comes to your mind, just allowing it to go into the paper, not judging it, not rejecting it, but really just allowing anything that comes to the mind to go onto the paper. And then sit quietly and experience the inner state your writings invoke in you. So allowing some time in silence and experience, and perhaps some new insights may come. So now we will get ready for the small groups, and we'll do it in such a way that you can go, there will be 4 people in a group. You can go one round and share whatever came up for you now. You may want to allow some time in silence in between. And as well as sharing the churning, it's really a space to experiment with what Caroline was sharing before, creating this space together. And once you are done with going one round, you can, of course, then break into conversation, but still with the exploration of maybe not speaking unless you feel like, unless it's coming from your heart. You don't have to say anything just to say it. And maybe at some points you will just sit together in silence, and that's fine. So really sensing the energy of the group, even if it's on Zoom, sensing the energy and speaking when you feel that it's coming from your heart. So do you have any questions, anyone? Is it clear? You will have about half an hour for this, and we will give you a notice 2 minutes before. So I think that's it. We are ready for the groups. Tag team.